Welcome to the Sleepless Historian. If you enjoy our journeys through time, please take a moment to like and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on loop so this soothing exploration can repeat as you drift off. Now, let us dim the lights. Take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Settle yourself into your comfortable space. Adjust your pillow just so. Perhaps wrap yourself in a cozy blanket. Feel the gentle weight of the fabric against your skin. Tonight, we delve into a rather mundane yet surprisingly intricate aspect of medieval life. The pest control procedures that were carried out in the manors of yore. Topic that might seem unexciting at first glance. Yet, little by little, we shall uncover the detailed routines, the methods, and the logistics that people relied upon to manage their uninvited guests. Imagine, if you will, the manor house, with its stone walls and thatched roofs. The shadows flicker softly in the candlelight, illuminating dusty corners where rodents might tread. The inhabitants had to be vigilant, as mice and rats could pose a threat to their food supplies. This concern led to a series of carefully planned measures to keep these creatures at bay. We will explore the use of traps, the strategies for sealing entry points, and the painstaking efforts required to maintain a pest-free environment. Each procedure, each daily task, was performed with a methodical precision that might seem tedious. Yet, it was essential for the well-being of the manor's occupants. As we ease into these gentle specifics, you may find comfort in the familiarity of routine. The slow, methodical nature of these tasks invites a calming rhythm, a soothing backdrop to your evening. So, take another deep breath and let it go. Together, we will navigate this quiet battle against rodentia, understanding the details, the measurements, and the etiquette of pest control from a time long past. Let your mind wander softly as we uncover the sleepy chronicles of medieval manor life. As we delve deeper into the meticulous routines of medieval manor pest control, we begin to notice the tools and materials that were essential for maintaining a tranquil living space. Imagine, if you will, a simple wooden box, perhaps crafted from oak or pine, filled with a collection of items that would become the first line of defense against unwanted guests. This box, often referred to as the pest control kit, contained various traps, baits, and tools. The traps themselves were made from readily available materials, such as twisted twigs, sturdy ropes, and small metal components, which might have been procured from the blacksmith. Each trap was carefully designed to capture, rather than harm, the creatures within. The most common type was the simple snap trap, ingeniously crafted to spring shot when the bait, a small piece of cheese or perhaps a morsel of bread, was disturbed. These traps were set with precision, often placed under furniture or near food storage areas, where the signs of rodent activity were most evident. Now, you can imagine the daily routine of a manor servant, perhaps a young scullery maid or a diligent steward, tasked with the responsibility of maintaining these traps. Each day, after a gentle morning routine of rising with the sun, they would check each trap meticulously. This task, which required only a few moments, was performed with a sense of calm and purpose. Slowly and gently, they would inspect each trap, ensuring that it was clean and ready for use, resetting it if necessary. Breathe in and out as you envision the maid lifting each trap, inspecting it for signs of wear, and replacing the bait with fresh offerings. Perhaps she would hum a soft tune, her hands moving deftly as she went about her work. In addition to traps, another vital aspect of pest control involved sealing entry points. The manor house, constructed from stone and wood, had its imperfections. Cracks and crevices could allow entry for the uninvited. Each day, a designated servant would perform a thorough inspection of the manor's exterior, taking note of any gaps that required attention. Armed with a mixture of clay and straw, a simple but effective sealant, they would patch these openings. This procedure, though time-consuming, was essential for maintaining a peaceful environment. Picture the servant kneeling on the ground, the soft earth beneath them, as they carefully apply the mixture, smoothing it into the crevices with their fingers. The clay would dry slowly in the sun, creating a barrier against the clever creatures that sought entrance. Ising, Ishao. And then, little by little, the servant would move along the walls, inspecting each nook and cranny, pausing to listen for any telltale sounds of scurry. They would work diligently, often spending several hours on this task, ensuring that every potential entry point was addressed. Let your shoulders relax as you imagine this scene. The gentle rhythm of work, the calming repetition of each task. Storage of food was another critical concern. The manor's inhabitants took great care to ensure that their supplies were kept safe from pests. Wooden barrels, tightly sealed with lids, stored grains and flour. These barrels were kept in a cool, dry place, often in a dedicated storage room. The room itself was a sanctuary of sorts, with its stone floor and thick walls, designed to keep out unwanted visitors. The grains were measured meticulously. A cup or two might be scooped out for daily use, while the rest remained securely stored. The measurement tools, simple wooden scoops or carved measuring cups, were often hung on a nearby hook for easy access. Each time they were used, there was a sense of care and attention, ensuring that everything was just right. In a quiet corner of the food storage area, one could find a series of glass jars, perhaps filled with herbs and spices. These jars were carefully labeled, each containing a variety of dried plants, known for their repellent qualities. The strong scents of mint, rosemary, and lavender could deter rodents, acting as a fragrant barrier against intrusion. Yee. As we envision this, let your breath steady and deepen. In, out. The herbs would be inspected regularly, ensuring they remained potent and fresh. The servants, with their gentle hands, would lightly rub the leaves together, releasing their aromatic oils into the air. There was also the matter of etiquette in dealing with these pests. The manor's occupants were often mindful of how they addressed the issue of rodents. Open discussions at mealtimes about the presence of mice were avoided, as they believed that speaking of such things could invite them in. Instead, they would express their concerns in hushed tones, perhaps exchanging knowing glances over the dinner table, while the servants listened attentively. Even the disposal of captured rodents was approached with care. It was considered courteous to take the caught animals far from the manor, to a nearby thicket or field, where they could be released back into the wild. The servant would walk slowly, carrying the trap with care, ensuring not to create undue distress. This process was not rushed. It required time, as each step was performed with a sense of reverence for nature. The captured creature would be placed gently on the ground, the trap released with a soft click, allowing for a quiet escape. Remember to breathe in and out as we find ourselves immersed in this serene task. The daily rhythms of pest control extended beyond the realm of traps and sealing. Regular cleaning was essential in deterring potential visitors. Every week, the manor would be swept and tidied, the floors meticulously brushed with a simple broom made from twigs. Dust and crumbs were gathered with care, ensuring that no remnants of food were left behind. Nyans. Anyartan. As the broom swept back and forth, it created a gentle sound, a calming, rhythmic swish. The servant would also use a cloth to wipe down surfaces, removing any lingering traces of food or scent. The act of cleaning became almost meditative, a necessary ritual to maintain both order and peace within the household. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the servants would partake in a final check of the manor. With lanterns in hand, they would traverse each room, ensuring that all traps were set, all entry points sealed, and all food securely stored. This quiet walk through the dimly lit halls was a moment of reflection, a time to appreciate the efforts of the day. Slowly and gently, they would move, feeling the cool stone beneath their feet, breathing in the familiar scents of wood and herbs, a night-lit reminder of their labor. As we continue to breathe softly in and out, let these calming images fade into the backdrop of your mind, allowing your body to settle deeper into relaxation. The simple tasks of pest control may seem mundane, yet they were the threads that wove the fabric of life in the medieval manor. No, intimacy. Oh, and I saw. Each action, each thought, and each moment spent in this quiet battle contributed to the safety and comfort of the inhabitants, ensuring that their lives proceeded with a soothing rhythm. And so we journey on, through the peaceful corridors of history, where the tiny details linger gently, inviting us to embrace the calm. As dawn began to break over the medieval landscape, the air would carry a chill that prompted the inhabitants of the manor to awaken slowly. Each day commenced with the gentle sound of cocks crowing, a reminder that it was time to rise. The sun would gradually cast its golden rays upon the stone walls, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the light. And with this soft illumination, the daily routines of pest control would begin anew. Ah. The first task of the morning was often the inspection of traps. Simple yet effective, these traps were made from wood, woven tightly together, creating a sturdy structure. Each trap was lined with a bait of cheese or grain. The cheese, often a hard variety, was selected for its pungent aroma, a beacon for the curious rodents. This cheese, perhaps a small wedge, weighing no more than a few ounces, would be carefully placed within the trap, ensuring it was securely fastened. In the coolness of the morning, a servant would move softly through the manor, checking each trap with tender care. The sound of soft footsteps on stone echoed gently, while fingers brushed against the cool wood of the traps, feeling for any signs of disturbance. Each trap would be inspected methodically, ensuring that any captured rodents could be dealt with promptly. The process was slow and deliberate, taking perhaps an hour or so, but this was simply the nature of the task. A calm approach was essential, as haste could lead to mistakes. With the traps inspected, attention would turn to the storage of food. In the medieval manor, food storage was a matter of great importance. Grain, a staple, was typically stored in large wooden barrels, each capable of holding several bushels. These barrels were kept in a cool, dry place, usually in a cellar that maintained a stable temperature. The cellar was often dark, illuminated only by the soft glow of candles, flickering gently in the still air. Way. Curly hair. As the servant would enter the cellar, they would take a moment to breathe in the earthy scent of the grains and the coolness of the stone. They would inspect the barrels, checking for signs of spoilage or invasive pests. A gentle tap on the side of each barrel was often sufficient to gauge its weight, a sign of the grain within. If any barrel felt light, it was meticulously opened to reveal the contents. The grains would be inspected for any signs of weevils or other pests, which could compromise the entire stock. Should any signs of pests be found, the protocol was simple yet thorough. The affected grain would be set aside, carefully removed from the barrel, and placed in a smaller container. It was essential to act quickly, as even a small number of pests could multiply rapidly, leading to larger infestations. This smaller container, often woven from reeds or made of wood, was then sealed tightly, preventing any further escape of the pests within. Meanwhile, the kitchen staff would begin their morning routine, which included the careful preparation of meals. As they set about their tasks, they would also maintain a keen eye on cleanliness, the first line of defense against unwanted guests. Every surface would be wiped down with a cloth soaked in vinegar, a natural deterrent for many pests. The vinegar's sharp scent would linger in the air, a reminder of their vigilance. Throughout the day, the manor would be alive with activity. The sound of laughter and conversation would blend softly with the clinking of utensils. Yet, unnoticed by many, the battle against pests continued in the background. The head of the household would often designate certain individuals to oversee pest control duties, ensuring that these essential tasks were not overlooked. Last. Every week, a thorough inspection of the manor would take place, a ritual as routine as the rising sun. This would be led by the steward, who would gather servants and apprentices alike to join in this endeavor. Each person assigned specific areas to inspect, whether it be the pantry, the stables, or the gardens. The steward would carry a small wooden staff, lightly tapping on the ground as they led the group through the manor. Each room would be examined with care. In the pantry, shelves would be wiped down, and all containers checked for signs of nibbling. The scent of dried herbs and spices would fill the air, soothing and grounding. In the stables, hay bales would be flipped over gently, ensuring that no hidden rodents had made a cozy home within. The gardens, too, were not neglected in this quiet battle. Weeds would be pulled carefully, and the soil examined for any signs of tunneling. This was essential, as burrowing creatures could wreak havoc on delicate roots. A gentle tug would reveal the strength of the plants, ensuring that they remained healthy and vibrant. As the day wore on, the tasks of pest control would often blend seamlessly with other duties. The manor was a place of constant motion, yet the rhythm remained gentle and soothing. Servants would move through the halls, carrying baskets filled with herbs and tinctures, remedies crafted to deter pests. These mixtures, made from a blend of lavender, mint, and other fragrant herbs, would be sprinkled in corners and around entry points, creating a natural barrier against unwanted guests. In the evening, when the light waned and shadows crept across the walls, a final round of inspections would take place. Lanterns would flicker to life, casting a warm glow that danced across the surfaces of the manor. Each servant would take their lantern and embark on a quiet journey through the rooms, ensuring that all was well. With each step, the atmosphere would shift into a serene calm. The soft sounds of breathing, the gentle creak of floorboards, and the distant chirping of crickets would weave together in a symphony of tranquility. It was a moment to reflect on the day's accomplishments, to appreciate the diligence it took to maintain harmony within the manor. Slowly and gently, they would complete their rounds, checking each corner and crevice, each nook and cranny. As they finished their final inspections, a sense of satisfaction would settle over them. The knowledge that they had contributed to a peaceful home, free from disturbances, brought a quiet joy. And as the last of the lanterns dimmed, the manor would settle into a hush, ready to embrace the night. The soft sounds of slumber would fill the air, a testament to the labor of the day. It was a cycle, a repetitive yet comforting routine, where the simple acts of vigilance played an integral role in the tapestry of life. So, as we take a moment to breathe in and out, let us remember the quiet diligence of those who tended to the mundane battles against pests, ensuring comfort and peace within the walls of the medieval manor. Each small step, each gentle act was a whisper, a reminder that even the most ordinary tasks can weave a sense of tranquility into our lives. In the soft glow of morning light filtering through the small leaded windows of the medieval manor, the day would begin with a gentle routine. Each morning, just as the sun peered over the horizon, the household staff would stir from slumber, feeling the weight of their responsibilities settle upon their shoulders. Among the many duties to attend to, the task of pest control would quietly await their attention. The first step involved gathering the necessary tools, each item thoughtfully stored in a designated corner of the cellar. A sturdy wooden bucket, crafted from tightly bound oak, would be filled with a mix of coarse salt and ground pepper. This blend, both deterrent and trap, would be used to ward off various pests. Salt and pepper, in their simplicity, held a power that the household had learned to respect. Alongside the bucket, a collection of woven baskets would be prepared. These baskets, made from supple willow, were used to gather any remnants of food that might attract uninvited guests. Each basket was assigned to a specific space in the manor, one for the kitchen, another for the pantry, and yet another for the dining hall. The methodical approach to pest control was a reflection of the household's overall philosophy. Prevention was key. As the staff moved through the manor, they would begin their inspections in the kitchen, where the air was often thick with the scent of freshly baked bread. They would look for any signs of tiny footprints in the flour or nibbled edges of cured meats. With soft, deliberate movements, they would wipe down surfaces with damp cloths, ensuring that any crumbs were collected and discarded into the waiting baskets. Each action, small and measured, was part of a greater endeavor to maintain cleanliness. The kitchen staff would often take turns in this routine, allowing each member to become familiar with the signs of pest activity. A diligent cook would share their observations with the others, noting the times of day when the mice seemed most active. It was understood that these creatures were creatures of habit, and the staff would learn to anticipate their movements. Once the kitchen was deemed secure, they would move to the pantry, a cool, dark space where grains and preserved foods were kept. The staff would check the sacks of flour and oats, ensuring that the tightly woven burlap bags remained intact. Any holes, no matter how small, would be mended with needle and twine. A small wooden chest, often overlooked, held various remedies and traps made from simple materials. A mixture of vinegar and water, which served to deter insects, and a line of sticky tar, carefully laid to catch wandering pests. Each morning, a quarter of an hour would be allocated to this task, the staff moving in unison, each person aware of their roles. The head cook would oversee the process, ensuring that no detail was missed. Every corner matters, they would remind the others, emphasizing the importance of vigilance. Slowly and gently, They would inspect the pantry shelves, running their fingers along the edges to detect any irregularities. As they moved through the manor, a routine emerged. The dining hall, with its long, heavy oak table, required the same careful attention. The tablecloths, meticulously laundered and pressed, were checked for any signs of disturbance. A gentle flick of the cloth would reveal if any crumbs had settled beneath, and if they found any remnants, they would gather them with a soft brush, sweeping them into a small wooden dustpan. The manor's storage areas were also inspected. A small room, dedicated to tools and supplies, would be scrutinized for signs of gnawing or burrowing. Each tool, whether it was a spade, a rake, or a hoe, was carefully hung on the walls, while sacks of grain were stacked neatly in the corners. The staff would ensure that the door to this room was always tightly closed, preventing curious critters from slipping inside. Through the day, the household staff would share their findings. A simple ledger, kept on a rough-hewn table near the hearth, recorded any pest sightings or incidents. The head cook would note down the date, the location, and the type of pest. This ledger served not only as a record but also as a guide, helping the staff understand when and where to focus their efforts. In the afternoons, the staff would gather once more to share their insights. They would discuss the effectiveness of their methods, the placement of traps, simple wooden contraptions baited with scraps of bread, and the observations recorded in the ledger. Remember, the head cook would gently remind them, patience is essential. The staff would nod, taking in the wisdom of these calm, repetitive meetings. As twilight approached, the evening routine would commence. Lanterns would be lit, casting a warm glow throughout the manor, signaling the time for final inspections. Each staff member would be assigned a particular area, returning to where they had started their day. The careful checks would begin anew, reinforcing the notion that pest control was an ongoing endeavor, one that required constant vigilance and care. Oh, waffle. With the kitchen once again inspected, the staff would turn their attention to the attic, a space often forgotten, but crucial in the battle against unwelcome visitors. Dust motes danced in the soft light as they ascended the narrow staircase, the air thick with the scent of old wood. Each item in the attic was carefully examined, from old trunks to forgotten furniture. Loose boards would be secured with nails, and any gaps in the walls would be filled with a mixture of clay and straw, providing a barrier against those determined to find their way inside. Leonel, Elf, Derek. The final inspection of the manor was a ritual, one that brought closure to the day's tasks. The staff would light a few fragrant candles, allowing the soothing scents of beeswax and herbs to fill the air. Here, in the quiet of the evening, they would gather one last time, reflecting on the simple yet profound importance of their work. As they settled into a comfortable space, they would take a deep breath, feeling the day's efforts settle within them. They knew that their diligence, their gentle vigilance, contributed to the serenity of the manor. Each small step they took, each detail they observed, was part of a broader tapestry woven from care and commitment. And so, as the lanterns flickered softly, casting gentle shadows across the walls, the staff would close their eyes for a moment, embracing the stillness that surrounded. They would gather their tools, tuck away the baskets, and prepare for another day. Each action, though mundane, was a thread in the fabric of their lives, a reminder that peace could be cultivated through simple acts of care and attention. Hey! And with that, as the night deepened and the world outside quieted, the manor would once again settle into a hush. The warmth of the hearth, the fragrance of the candles, and the soft sounds of the staff's laughter would blend together, creating a soothing symphony. Slowly and gently, the cycle of vigilance would continue, ensuring that the home remained a sanctuary, free from disturbance and filled with peace. Here, in the soft glow of the manor's kitchen, the tools for pest control were carefully arranged, each with a designated space. A sturdy wooden table, worn from years of use, provided a central location for these implements. The staff had an array of simple yet effective tools, each chosen for its purpose and ease of use. A small hand-woven basket held traps, crafted from local materials. Each trap was made of a sturdy wood, typically pine or oak, chosen for its availability and strength. The traps were designed with a gentle mechanism, allowing for a swift catch without excessive fuss. The staff would select traps measuring about 12 inches in length and 6 inches in width. These dimensions were optimal for the typical rodents the manor encountered. Each trap was inspected regularly, ensuring it remained functional and ready for use. The gentle creak of the wooden hinges would often be heard as the traps were set in their designated locations. The bait used would vary depending upon the season. In the colder months, when the outside world lay blanketed in snow, the staff would use small bits of cheese. A local cheese, known for its rich flavor and aroma, was preferred. It was often procured from a nearby farm, costing no more than a few pence, making it an economical yet effective choice. In the warmer months, the staff would shift to using grains, such as oats or barley, stored in a dedicated earthenware jar. The jar, with its snug lid, kept the grains fresh and protected from the elements. Each morning at the break of dawn, a designated staff member would check the traps, a task that took approximately 20 minutes. They would move from room to room, gently lifting the traps, inspecting them with care. If they found a catch, the staff member would dispose of it in a respectful manner, ensuring that the remnants were buried beyond the manor grounds, adhering to the etiquette that governed the manor's practices. This attention to detail in the disposal process was an important aspect of maintaining the dignity of the household. As the staff moved through the manor, they maintained a quiet demeanor, as if participating in a sacred ritual. Every sound was muted, the soft rustle of cloth against wood, the gentle creak of floorboards beneath their feet. They would whisper their observations to one another, sharing notes about places where they had seen signs of rodent activity. Perhaps a slight nibble on a piece of bread left unattended, or the faintest trail of dust disturbed in a corner. In addition to traps, the staff employed a method of prevention that revolved around cleanliness and organization. The pantry was a focal point of their efforts. It was meticulously arranged, with all items stored in tightly sealed containers. Glass jars held grains, while wooden bins contained vegetables, each labeled with their contents. The labels were written in careful script, ensuring that every staff member could identify the items quickly. The pantry was cleaned weekly, a task that took about 2 hours. During this time, the staff would remove all items, wiping down shelves with a cloth soaked in vinegar and water. This solution not only cleaned but also deterred unwanted visitors with its sharp scent. The air would fill with the fresh aroma of vinegar, mingling with the scents of herbs and spices stored on the shelves. The herbs, including thyme and rosemary, were hung in small bunches, their fragrance providing an additional layer of protection against pests. Twice a year, during the changing of the seasons, a thorough inspection of the manor's exterior was conducted. This involved checking for any cracks or openings that might allow tiny creatures to scurry inside. A carpenter, well versed in the manor's architecture, would be invited to assist with this task. Together, staff members would walk the perimeter of the building, armed with a lantern to illuminate the shadows. They would measure openings with a small wooden ruler, ensuring that no gap wider than 1/4 of an inch remained unsealed. If any gaps were discovered, the staff would gather materials from the nearby woods. Stones, clay, and even a mixture of sand and water would be utilized to fill the voids. Each material was chosen for its natural properties, ensuring durability and effectiveness. The clay, when dried, would harden, creating a barrier against intrusion. The staff understood the importance of maintaining these barriers. They would also use a simple mixture of water and soap, creating a light spray to deter insects. This solution would be applied to windowsills and door frames, creating an additional line of defense. The practice was conducted during the early morning hours, when the dew still clung to the grass and the air was cool and crisp. Gardening duties also played a role in the overall pest control strategy. The staff would cultivate a small herb garden just beyond the kitchen windows. This garden, lovingly tended, yielded a variety of plants, known for their pest-repelling properties. Lavender, mint, and marigolds were among the favorites. Each plant was spaced carefully, measuring about 12 inches apart to allow for adequate growth and air circulation. In the early days of spring, staff members would gather to sow seeds, marking rows in the soft earth with small wooden stakes. The seeds would be planted at a depth of approximately 1 inch, covered gently with soil, and watered lightly. The rhythmic motion of planting, digging, placing, covering, created a soothing routine, a small dance of diligence. As the plants grew, they would release their scents into the air, contributing to the overall atmosphere of the manor. The staff would occasionally prune the herbs, a task that allowed them to enjoy the fragrant leaves up close. They would dry the herbs in small bunches, tying them with twine and hanging them in the pantry for later use. This practice ensured that the essence of the garden lingered throughout the year, a gentle reminder of nature's power. Yes. In the evenings, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a staff member would light a small fire in the hearth. The flickering flames provided warmth and comfort. A pot filled with water would be placed on the fire, infused with herbs from the garden. The resulting steam would rise, carrying the calming scents throughout the manor. These aromas were not only pleasant, but served to create a soothing atmosphere, a protective barrier against the stresses of the day. Each step taken in this meticulous process, each small action, was a thread in the greater tapestry of the manor's life. They were not just battling against pests. They were cultivating a sanctuary. Slowly and gently, their efforts unfolded, creating an environment where peace could flourish, where the mundane became a source of solace. And so, as the fire crackled softly in the hearth, the staff would settle into their evening routines, each person finding a moment of stillness. The cycle of care and vigilance continued, a dance of harmony amidst the everyday challenges of life within the manor. All was well, and all would continue. As the evening settled over the medieval manor, the staff would begin their nightly inspection. Each corner and crevice would be checked with care, a ritual as essential as the hearth's warmth. They would gather their tools, simple yet effective in their purpose. A sturdy broom, made of thin twigs bound together, would be the first item in hand. It was used to sweep away any remnants of the day, crumbs that may have attracted unwelcome visitors. The sound of the broom bristles brushing against the stone or wooden floor was a calming rhythm, a soft whisper of diligence. Next came the lanterns. Made of wrought iron, they held small glass panes, each one filled with flickering candles. The light illuminated the pathways and darkened nooks, creating a safe haven against the encroaching night. The flickering light danced gently, casting shadows that seemed to waltz along the walls. Each lantern would be carefully placed in strategic locations throughout the manor, ensuring no area was left in darkness. This meticulous attention to light was essential, for you see, light not only kept away the darkness, but also discouraged the presence of pesky rodents. A well-lit space felt more secure, more controlled. It was a small yet significant step in the ongoing battle against the uninvited guests that sought refuge within the manor's walls. Once the lanterns were lit, the staff would move to the pantry, a room often filled with the rich aromas of stored grains and dried herbs. This pantry, with its wooden shelves lined with jars and pouches, was a treasure trove of sustenance. Each jar would be carefully inspected for signs of pest activity. A gentle shake would reveal if anything inside had been disturbed. The sound of glass against glass was soft, almost like a lullaby, reminding the staff of their purpose. The grains, stored in burlap sacks, were a particular focus. Each sack weighed approximately 20 to 30 pounds, filled with oats, barley, or rye. These staples, essential for meal preparations, were often targets for hungry rodents. The burlap texture was rough to the touch, but breathable, allowing for air circulation while protecting the grains inside. Slowly and gently, the staff would inspect the seams of each bag, checking for tiny nibbles or signs of wear. If any damage was found, the contents would be transferred to a new sack, ensuring the grains remained safe and sound. In the corners of the pantry, jars of dried herbs were stored. Thyme, rosemary, and bay leaves were not only culinary delights, but also natural deterrents against pests. Their potent scents would waft through the air, a gentle reminder of nature's role in the protection of the manor. When the staff noticed the aroma fading, they made a note to replenish the jars. The cyclical nature of this task was comforting. It spoke to the continuity of care that enveloped the manor. With the pantry checked, the staff would move on to the kitchen. The kitchen was the heart of the manor, a bustling space filled with scents and sounds. Here, wooden tables bore the marks of countless meals prepared over the years. The staff would carefully clean the surfaces, ensuring no crumbs remained. A simple cloth, dampened with warm water, would be used to wipe down the tables. The repetitive motion was soothing, almost meditative. As they wiped, they would also check for any signs of unwanted visitors in the kitchen. The corners of the room were particularly scrutinized. A gentle brush of the broom would send any stray bits of food into the dustpan, ensuring a tidy space. The dustpan itself was made of thin metal, easily held and maneuvered, capturing each morsel with precision. At this hour, it was important to store away any food that had been left out. Bread would be placed in a wooden box, its lid securely fastened. The box was crafted to allow air to flow while keeping the contents safe from pests. The scent of the bread lingered in the air, a warm embrace that beckoned the staff to indulge. Yet discipline was essential. Temptation would lead to trouble. Next, the staff would check the larder, a cool room used for preserving various foods. Here, fruits and vegetables were stored with care. Apples, turnips, and cabbages lined the shelves, each one inspected for any signs of decay. The staff would ensure that no spoiled produce lay among the fresh, for decay could attract unwanted guests. Slowly and gently, they would sort through the items, discarding any that did not meet the standards of freshness. As they worked, they would often remind one another of the importance of this process. We must be vigilant, one might say softly, as they exchanged knowing glances. Each motion, each careful gesture, contributed to the larger effort of maintaining the manor's sanctity. After the kitchen and larder were secured, the staff would gather in the common area, taking a moment to breathe and reflect. The warm glow of the hearth enveloped them, a comforting presence after a long day of vigilance. They would share stories of the day, recounting the various tasks completed and the simple joys found in the routine. As the night deepened, the final checks would commence. Each room in the manor would receive attention. The doors would be inspected, ensuring they were properly latched and secure. Windows would be closed, with shutters drawn tight, blocking out any potential intruders. This was a ritual not merely of safety, but of serenity. Each click of the latch was a reminder of the care taken to maintain a peaceful sanctuary. In the bedrooms, the staff would take a moment to smooth the linens, ensuring a comfortable resting place. Each bed was a refuge, a soft cocoon for the weary. Pillows were fluffed and blankets straightened, creating an inviting space for rest. The gentle rustle of fabric was a sound that lulled the senses, offering a promise of tranquility. At last, when all tasks were completed, the staff would gather once more in the main hall. They would share a final breath, a collective sigh of relief. The manor was prepared for the night, ready to embrace the stillness that lay ahead. Slowly and gently, they would disperse, each person retreating to their respective chambers. No, as they settled into their beds, the echoes of the day would fade into a comforting silence. The manor stood strong, a fortress against the night, fortified by the diligent efforts of its caretakers. Each creak of the floorboards, each whisper of the wind outside, became part of the nightly symphony, lulling them into a peaceful slumber where dreams wove through the fabric of the manor's history. And so, the cycle continued, a dance of protection and care, thread by thread, day by day. As the night deepened, the manor staff prepared for yet another cycle of diligent pest control. Each day, the routine was methodical, a series of steps carefully crafted to maintain the sanctity of their home. In the early hours of the morning, the first rays of light would filter through the thick stone walls, casting gentle shadows across the wooden floors. The staff would gather their tools, simple yet effective, chosen for their practicality and ease of use. They began with wooden traps, crafted by local carpenters from sturdy oak. These traps were designed to be both discreet and efficient. Each trap measured approximately 10 inches in length and 4 inches in width, a compact size suitable for the nooks and crannies of the manor. The wood was left unvarnished, allowing the scent of the timber to blend naturally with the surroundings. The staff believed this would attract the unwelcome rodents, drawing them closer to the traps. As the staff moved through the manor, they would first inspect the kitchen. This room was often the heart of pest activity, with its abundance of food and warmth. The staff would sweep the floors with a broom made of dried birch twigs, each bristle carefully spaced to capture every crumb and morsel. The act of sweeping was rhythmic, almost meditative, as the bristles glided over the wooden floor, gathering remnants of the previous day's meals. Next, they would check the pantry, a small room lined with sturdy shelves. This was where grains, flour, and dried herbs were stored in clay jars. Each jar was sealed with a tightly woven cloth, fastened with twine to keep the contents fresh. The staff would carefully open each jar, inspecting for any signs of gnawing or disturbance. It was a gentle ritual requiring patience and care. If any jars appeared compromised, they would be replaced immediately, ensuring the contents remained safe and undisturbed. Ah, wa, he, oru, wo wei, rei, di, dadael, sir. In the pantry, the staff also utilized a mixture of crushed herbs and spices, such as mint and rosemary. These were strategically placed around the shelves to deter any curious rodents. The strong scent of the herbs filled the air, creating a fragrant barrier that was both soothing and effective. The act of arranging these herbs was performed with intention, as they created a small protective perimeter around each jar. Once the kitchen and pantry were secure, the staff would move to the dining hall. Here, they would inspect the long wooden table, polished daily to a shine. The table was often adorned with fresh flowers, which, while beautiful, could attract unwelcome guests. Thus, they would gently remove each arrangement, taking care to examine the area beneath for any signs of intrusion. In preparation for the evening, they would set small dishes filled with water in the corners of the room. These were not just for the comfort of any potential intruders. They also served as a reminder of the delicate balance of life within the manor. The staff understood that all creatures played a role in the ecosystem, and they approached their duties with respect. Once the dining area was secure, they would proceed to the storage rooms, where additional supplies were kept. These rooms were often cool and dark, providing a perfect environment for pests. The staff would inspect the wooden crates filled with dried goods, checking for any signs of nibbling. Each crate was carefully marked with the date of storage, ensuring that nothing lingered too long. The staff would take note of each crate's contents, recording them in a ledger kept on a small table nearby. This ledger was meticulously maintained, with entries made in elegant script. The act of writing was calming, a way to reflect on the day's tasks. Each entry included the date, the contents of the crates, and any observations regarding pest activity. In these storage rooms, the staff also kept a few simple tools. A sturdy bucket, filled with a mixture of water and a dash of vinegar, was used for cleaning and disinfecting surfaces. The vinegar's pungent smell was effective in deterring pests, creating an invisible barrier around the stored goods. The staff would dip a cloth into the mixture, wringing it out before gently wiping down shelves and crates, ensuring that every surface remained clean and uninviting to any uninvited guests. Wow. Through this routine, they fostered an atmosphere of quiet vigilance. Each task was performed with purpose, a small piece in the larger puzzle of maintaining the manor's integrity. The gentle sounds of sweeping, the soft rustle of cloth against wood, and the rhythmic scratching of quill against parchment created a soothing backdrop, a lullaby of everyday life. After the storage rooms, the staff would make their way to the outer walls of the manor. This area required particular attention, as it was here that the threats of the outside world often made their presence known. The staff carried small bags filled with a mixture of ashes and crushed garlic. This natural repellent was scattered around the base of the walls, creating a protective barrier. The mixture was applied with care, ensuring an even distribution, almost like laying down a soft blanket of protection. The staff understood that prevention was key. They would inspect the exterior for any cracks or openings, sealing them with a mixture of clay and straw. Jiwa. This simple blend was effective in keeping the manor secure from both the elements and any curious creatures. Each application was a gentle reminder of the care that went into maintaining their home, brick by brick, layer by layer. Ah, as the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the manor, the staff would gather their tools, returning to the main hall for a moment of reflection. They would take a collective breath, feeling the satisfaction of a day well spent. Each piece of the routine, each task completed, was a step toward ensuring the comfort and safety of every inhabitant within the manor. In this tranquil atmosphere, the staff would share a few moments of camaraderie, their voices low and soothing. They would recount tales of the day, the small victories in their ongoing battle against the unseen. The manor, with its thick stone walls and sturdy oak beams, stood firmly against the night, a place of warmth and safety. And so, the cycle continued. A gentle rhythm of care and attention, day by day, night by night, slowly and gently. They would prepare for another evening of quiet vigilance, ensuring that the manor remained a sanctuary for all who dwelled within its walls. Each task, each moment, woven together like threads in a peaceful tapestry. Now, Lendo, was. As the evening settled gently over the manor, the staff would begin to reflect on their routines, each member knowing their role in the ongoing maintenance of their home. Within the walls of the manor, every tool had its purpose. Every action had its significance. The tools of pest control were simple yet effective, chosen with care, and stored meticulously in the wooden shed just behind the kitchen. There, nestled among the garden spades and straw brooms, lay the essential implements for their nightly rituals. The traps, made of sturdy wood, were crafted with precision, designed to remain inconspicuous yet effective. Each trap was about a foot in length and a few inches wide. The staff would inspect them regularly, ensuring they were free from debris and weathered conditions. The wooden surfaces were smooth to the touch, having been sanded down to prevent any injury during handling. Each trap was marked with a soft stroke of linseed oil, preserving the wood while giving it a faint scent of earthiness that lingered in the air, a reminder of the natural world outside. Yee! In addition to the traps, the staff kept a stock of bait stored in small cloth bags, tightly sealed to preserve freshness. The bait, often a blend of grains and seeds, was measured in quarter-pint portions. Each portion, a careful balance of nutrition, was enough to entice the most cautious of creatures. The grains were sourced from a local mill, their texture coarse yet inviting, a tactile experience that spoke to the care taken in their selection. The staff knew their measures, their routines, and each bag was labeled clearly, resting on a low shelf within the shed, organized by type and date of procurement. Once the tools were gathered, the staff would gather in the kitchen for a moment of quiet preparation. The kitchen, with its stone hearth and gentle glow of candlelight, provided a comforting backdrop. Here, they would mix a small batch of herbal repellent, a blend of dried herbs known for their natural pest deterrent properties. The ingredients, rosemary, thyme, and mint, were measured carefully, each herb contributing its unique scent and potency. A small mortar and pestle were used to crush the dried leaves, releasing their fragrant oils into the air. The rhythmic sound of grinding would echo softly, a soothing backdrop to their preparations. Leo. As the mixture came together, the staff would pause to breathe in the aromas, allowing the scents to wash over them in waves of tranquility. They would measure out equal parts, roughly a tablespoon of each herb, combining them into a small ceramic bowl. The blending process was slow and methodical, a moment to connect with the ingredients, to feel the textures, and to appreciate the simplicity of their task. Time seemed to stretch during these moments as they took care to ensure everything was blended thoroughly, creating a harmonious mixture. Eh, well, once prepared, the herbal repellent would be stored in glass jars, each jar labeled with the date of creation and the contents within. The jars were lined up on a shelf, catching the light of the flickering candles, their surfaces cool and smooth. Each label was written in careful script, ensuring clarity for all who might use them in the future. In the early hours of the evening after their preparations, the staff would begin their patrols around the manor. They moved quietly, guided by the soft light of lanterns that flickered gently in the cool air. Each step was measured, each sound absorbed by the thick stone walls. The layout of the manor was familiar to them, a labyrinth of hallways and rooms they had come to know intimately. The staff would begin by checking the pantry, a space that held both food and potential temptation for unwelcome visitors. The pantry, with its cool, dark corners, was carefully organized. Each shelf was stocked with preserves, grains, and dried goods, all stored in earthenware pots or woven baskets, each labeled for ease of access. As they examined the shelves, they would look for signs of disturbance, tiny footprints in the flour or a slight disturbance among the jars. The act of checking was methodical, requiring patience and keen observation. They would take a moment to breathe, to absorb the atmosphere, and to appreciate the stillness around them. Next, they would make their way to the common room. Here, the furniture was arranged with care, the upholstery soft and inviting. They would assess the nooks beneath the furniture, using a long, slender stick to gently prod at the dark spaces, ensuring no creature had taken residence there. The act was performed with a sense of calm, a gentle assurance that no harm would come to the manor that night. With the common room inspected, the staff would proceed to the dining hall, where the grand table, polished to a shine, stood proudly in the center. They would check the corners and the area behind the heavy drapery, ensuring that every inch was clear and tidy. The process was repetitive but essential, executed with an ease that spoke to their shared commitment to the manor's upkeep. Hey, oh, hey. As they moved about the space, they would share soft whispers, discussing the day's tasks and the progress made. Each member of the staff played a role, a synchronous dance of duty and responsibility. They would take turns sharing their observations, mindful of the time spent in each area, ensuring that nothing was overlooked. Time would pass gently, and before long, the staff would gather in the courtyard for a final check. The courtyard, a quiet refuge surrounded by stone walls, was a place for reflection. Here, they would light a small fire, its warmth a comfort against the cool evening air. They would sit on low benches, taking a moment to breathe deeply, to relax their shoulders, and to settle into the soft embrace of the night. The flickering flames danced before them, casting gentle shadows on the stone walls. As they sat, they would discuss their findings, their strategies for the days to come, and the small victories that brought them peace. Each conversation was laced with a sense of calm, an understanding that their efforts were woven into the very fabric of the manor itself. In only very serious. As the evening wore on, the staff would slowly disperse, each member returning to their quarters, feeling the weight of the day lift from their shoulders. They would take their time, moving through the dimly lit hallways, savoring the quiet moments of solitude. And so, the cycle of care continued, a gentle rhythm of attention and diligence. Each evening, The staff prepared, checked, and reflected, ensuring that their home remained a sanctuary. Each task performed, no matter how small, was a vital piece of the larger tapestry of life within the manor. Little by little, the manor stood resilient against the encroaching night, a bastion of warmth and safety. The pursuit of peace and comfort was a shared journey, one that unfolded slowly and gently, like the petals of a flower opening to embrace the dawn. Way, as the morning light began to filter through the narrow windows of the manor, the staff would rise to greet the day. Each member of the household had specific duties, carefully outlined in the rhythm of their daily lives. The tasks surrounding pest control were no exception, requiring a meticulous approach that became second nature to them. The first light of dawn would illuminate the corridors, and the scent of fresh bread would waft through the air, signaling the start of another cycle of routine. The first task would be to gather the necessary tools for the day's work. This would involve collecting wooden traps, which were crafted from the sturdy oak found in the nearby forest. The traps were simple yet effective, designed to capture uninvited guests without excessive fuss. Each trap was approximately a foot in length, with a sturdy latch that held the bait securely. The bait itself was often a small piece of cheese or a handful of grains, drawn from the pantry. The staff would take care to inspect the traps regularly. Each morning, they would check their locations, ensuring they remained undisturbed and effective. A careful rotation of the traps would be implemented, moving them to different locations as needed. This process would take approximately 30 minutes, allowing for a thorough examination of each corner of the manor where rodents might seek shelter. After the traps were set, the staff would turn their attention to the pantry. The pantry was a vital space in the manor, housing not only food, but also a collection of herbs and spices used for cooking. To prevent any unwanted visitors, the staff would ensure that all food was stored properly. Wooden containers, tightly sealed, were utilized for grains and flour. Jars of preserves were placed on high shelves, making it difficult for any curious creature to reach. The staff was diligent about maintaining a clean pantry. Every day, they would sweep the floor, removing any crumbs that might attract attention. This simple act of cleaning would take about 15 minutes, during which they would also check for any signs of gnawing or droppings. Each detail mattered, and the staff understood the importance of vigilance in the face of their quiet adversaries. As the morning progressed, the staff would gather in the courtyard for a brief meeting. This was a time for sharing observations and discussing strategies. They would speak in hushed tones, aware of the manor's stillness around them. Each voice contributed to the gentle hum of camaraderie. During these meetings, they would often discuss the supplies they needed. A list would be created on a scrap of parchment, detailing items such as more traps, additional storage containers, or various herbs known for their pest-repelling properties. These herbs included rosemary, mint, and lavender. The staff would keep these herbs in a small wooden box, labeled and stored near the kitchen to ensure easy access. Rusty. The procurement of supplies was often a task assigned to the youngest member of the household. This individual would venture into the nearby village, a short walk of about 20 minutes, to acquire what was needed. The staff understood the importance of these errands and would provide the young person with a small pouch of coins, usually around a few pennies, enough to purchase the required items. Once the supplies were gathered, the tasks would return to the manor. The staff would take time to organize the newly acquired items, ensuring everything had its place. Containers would be stacked neatly in the pantry, while herbs would be hung to dry in the kitchen, their fragrant aromas filling the air. And in the afternoons, when the sun was high in the sky, the staff would engage in further preventative measures. They would inspect the exterior of the manor, checking for any gaps or holes in the walls. This would be a slow and careful process, requiring keen attention to detail. It was important to seal any openings, even the smallest cracks, which might serve as entry points for pests. Oh. The tools for this task included a simple mixture of clay and straw, gathered from the surrounding grounds. This mixture was molded into small plugs, pressed into any openings found. The process was methodical, often taking several hours in total, depending on the size of the manor and the number of potential entry points. Throughout this work, the staff would remind each other to take breaks, to breathe deeply, and to appreciate the quiet surroundings of their home. They would pause to listen to the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze or the distant sound of birds chirping, inviting moments of mindfulness and calm. As evening approached, the staff would gather once more, reflecting on the day's efforts. They would discuss any changes they had noticed, any signs of activity from their uninvited guests. It was a time of shared observation and gentle encouragement, where each member could voice their thoughts without fear of criticism. In this way, the staff cultivated a sense of belonging and responsibility. They understood that their efforts, though often tedious and repetitive, were crucial to the well-being of the manor. Each evening they would return to their stations, ensuring that all was in place for the night ahead. Before retiring, they would check the traps one last time. This nightly ritual was performed with care and softness, ensuring that nothing was overlooked. The traps would be reset, baited anew, ready for the challenges of the coming night. After this final round of checks, the staff would settle into their quarters, feeling a sense of accomplishment. Each member would take time to wind down, reflecting on the day's tasks and the quiet victories achieved. Perhaps they would light a small candle, allowing its soft glow to fill their space with warmth. Gushy. Slowly and gently, they would prepare for rest, their minds unwinding from the day's efforts. The manor would settle into a peaceful silence, the rhythmic breathing of its inhabitants echoing softly within its stone walls. As night enveloped the manor, the cycle would begin anew with the breaking of dawn. The gentle battle against the pests would continue, sustained by the diligent efforts of those who called this place home. Each task, each routine, was a thread woven into the fabric of life, securing the peace that lingered in the air. It was a quiet existence, marked by small victories that unfolded slowly and gently, like the turning of pages in a well-loved book. As dawn broke softly over the manor, the first light of day would filter through the small, leaded glass windows. The day's tasks began with the gentle stirring of the household. Each member knew their role within the rhythmic cycle of the manor. The kitchen would come alive first, with the aroma of porridge bubbling quietly over the hearth. The head cook would rise early, measuring the coarse oats with a delicate hand. Each scoop was approximately a quarter of a pint, enough to nourish the staff for their morning endeavors. After breakfast, the household would gather for a brief moment of organization. With the sun casting elongated shadows across the flagstone courtyard, the steward would distribute the daily tasks. The first order of business would often involve the inspection of traps and the collection of any unwelcome guests caught during the night. This task fell to the younger members of the staff, who were well trained in the quiet art of pest control. They would gather their tools. A sturdy wicker basket to hold any captured rodentia, a small spade for digging, and a cloth for handling the traps. Each piece of equipment was stored in a designated nook by the entrance to the storage room, meticulously organized for swift access. The wicker basket was woven tightly, ensuring that it could hold the weight of the captured creatures without risk of escape, while the spade was sharp and well maintained, its wooden handle polished from years of careful use. Ah, bah. Once gathered, the young staff members would make their way to the designated areas where traps had been set. This would often be the storeroom, where grains and other supplies were kept. Each trap was checked methodically, ensuring that the bait was fresh. The staff would use a mixture of oats and a touch of honey, carefully measured to create an enticing lure. The sweetness of the honey balanced with the earthiness of the oats, making a combination that was difficult for even the most discerning rodent to resist. Now, as they moved from trap to trap, they would take note of the locations and conditions, recording their findings in a small ledger kept within the storage room. Each entry was brief but detailed, noting the date, location, and any captured pests. This ledger served not only as a record but as a tool for future reference, helping to identify patterns in rodent behavior. The act of writing was slow and deliberate, the quill gliding smoothly across the parchment, each stroke echoing the rhythm of their quiet efforts. The inspections took time, generally spanning an hour or more, as each trap was treated with care. The young workers would speak softly to one another, their voices barely above a whisper, sharing tidbits of knowledge about the best methods for enticing or deterring certain creatures. This exchange of information was a vital part of their training, cultivated through years of shared experience, slowly building a collective wisdom that would carry them through the seasons. Whoa. Once the traps were reset and the ledger updated, the staff would retreat to the kitchen for a brief moment of respite. A warm bowl of porridge awaited them, steaming gently, filled with nourishment and comfort. They would take their time, savoring each bite, the grains soft and pliable in their mouths. The warmth of the porridge was calming, grounding them for the tasks that lay ahead. After breakfast, the next phase of pest control involved an assessment of the manor's perimeter. This task was typically assigned to the groundskeeper, who would walk the boundary of the estate, inspecting for any signs of disturbance. Armed with a simple wooden staff, he would tap the ground gently, listening for the telltale signs of burrowing or digging. His observations were meticulous, focusing on the texture of the earth and the presence of any tracks or droppings. The groundskeeper would carry a small pouch filled with a mixture of herbs and spices, carefully measured out. This blend included dried rosemary, sage, and a hint of cayenne pepper, all known for their ability to repel unwanted guests. As he walked, he would sprinkle small amounts of the mixture at regular intervals along the perimeter, creating a natural barrier. The aroma would mingle with the fresh air, a gentle reminder of the balance between the natural world and the man-made. Each round of inspection along the perimeter would take about 2 hours, allowing ample time for thorough observation. He would pause occasionally, taking care to listen to the sounds around him, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds, the whisper of the wind through the trees. In this tranquil environment, he found solace, knowing that his efforts contributed to the safety of the manor. Meanwhile, within the walls of the manor, the housekeeper would carry out her own routines. Armed with a broom and a dustpan, she would sweep the floors, ensuring that no crumbs were left behind to attract unwelcome guests. The sound of the broom bristles softly brushing against the floor, tiles created a soothing rhythm, a gentle cadence that echoed throughout the hallways. She would take care to pay special attention to corners and crevices where crumbs often found refuge. Her movements were deliberate, methodical, guided by years of experience. The dustpan would be emptied regularly into a small compost bin, where the remnants of the previous meals would nourish the earth, a continuing cycle of life and care. Oh, after the sweeping was complete, she would move on to the kitchen, where she would inspect the pantry. Each container was carefully labeled, ensuring that grains and spices were stored correctly. She would check for any signs of spoilage or infestation, her fingers deftly running along the edges of the containers. If she noticed any inconsistencies, she would take immediate action, discarding any compromised goods and cleaning the area thoroughly with a mixture of vinegar and water. Underway, Nishai, Asi, Isi, Incisio, Wernashu. The housekeeper's routine often consumed a large part of the morning, allowing her to maintain an orderly and inviting space. Each task was imbued with a sense of purpose, each action contributing to the larger goal of a harmonious home. She moved from room to room, ensuring that every surface was tended to, every corner attended to with care. As the day progressed, the household would reconvene for a midday meal, a time for sharing not only food but also the experiences of the morning. They would gather around the long wooden table, recounting stories of their efforts and any discoveries made. This moment of camaraderie was vital for maintaining morale, a gentle reminder of their shared purpose within the manor's walls. Well, after lunch, the focus would shift once more to the ongoing battle against pests. The staff would split into small groups, each tasked with a specific area of the estate. Some would check the garden, inspecting for signs of nibbling on vegetables or fruits. Others would return to the storage areas, ensuring that everything remained secure and safe. Each task was performed with a sense of rhythm, an unhurried pace that allowed for thoroughness and attention to detail. As the sun moved across the sky, casting shifting shadows, the staff would take comfort in their routines, knowing that each small effort contributed to the larger goal of maintaining peace within the manor. They worked together, side by side, fostering a sense of unity as they engaged in their daily rituals, one small act of care after another, slowly and gently, transforming the space into a sanctuary of harmony. Lisamento. As the afternoon wore on, the staff allocated their time with careful consideration. Each person had their assigned tasks, and these duties were executed with diligence and precision. The focus on pest control required specific tools, each selected for their unique purpose. Wooden traps, simple yet effective, were crafted from sturdy timber, often sourced from the manor's own woods. These traps measured about 12 inches in length and 6 inches in width, designed to be both discreet and efficient. The traps were baited with small morsels of food, usually remnants of the previous day's meals. Stale bread or a piece of cheese, cut into small squares, was placed delicately at the center of the trap. This careful preparation was essential. It had to be enticing enough to draw the pests in, but not so much that they could easily take the bait without triggering the mechanism. After the traps were set, the staff would retreat to a distance, allowing the natural environment to resume its course. They understood the importance of patience in this process. The traps would remain undisturbed for several hours, optimizing their chances of success. The soft rustle of leaves and the distant chirping of birds created a serene backdrop, enveloping the workers in a gentle ambience. Meanwhile, Other team members would venture into the storerooms, a cool and dark area of the manor where grains and dried goods were kept. Here, meticulous attention was paid to the condition of the stored items. Each sack of grain was inspected for signs of damage or disturbance. The grains themselves were often stored in burlap sacks, tightly woven to keep out unwanted guests. These sacks typically weighed around 50 pounds, and the staff, trained in teamwork, would lift them together, ensuring no strain was placed on any individual. Once the checks were complete, the bags would be carefully repositioned on pallets made of aged wood. These pallets allowed for air circulation, reducing the likelihood of moisture accumulation, which could attract pests. The staff would also sprinkle a thin layer of fine ash around the bases of the pallets. This was a traditional method, believed to deter rodents with its coarse texture and unappealing scent. Every detail was significant. The staff noted the dates of their inspections, writing them in a leather-bound ledger that resided in the storeroom. This ledger, aged and well-thumbed, served as a historical record, a chronicle of the manor's ongoing battle against uninvited guests. Each entry was accompanied by the initials of the staff member who performed the inspection, providing accountability and a sense of pride in their work. Wow. The routine continued, each day blending into the next, yet every task was approached with a fresh perspective. After the afternoon inspections, a brief gathering would often take place. The team would share insights and observations, discussing any peculiarities or changes in behavior they might have noticed. This exchange was not merely functional. It fostered a sense of community and shared purpose. As the sun began to lower in the sky, the staff would move to the gardens, a vibrant patchwork of colors and scents. The gardens, a source of nourishment and beauty, required constant vigilance. Here, they would inspect for signs of nibbling on tender leaves and blossoming vegetables. A small measuring tool, fashioned from a piece of sturdy wood marked with measurements, was used to assess the growth of the plants. Each section of the garden was divided into plots, and each plot was approximately 10 feet by 10 feet. The staff would kneel in the soft earth, gently probing the soil with their fingers, assessing moisture levels and checking for any disturbances. Should they notice any signs of pest activity, a careful approach was taken. Strategies varied based on the type and extent of the problem. For example, if caterpillars were found munching on the kale, a mild herbal solution, often made from crushed garlic and water, would be prepared. This mixture was simple, yet effective, acting as a deterrent while remaining harmless to the plants. 9. I'll say. Measurements for the herbal solution were precise, typically 1 part crushed garlic to 5 parts water. This careful formulation was poured into small glass bottles, each labeled for easy identification. The staff would then spray the mixture on the affected areas, ensuring that every leaf was lightly coated. This meticulous process took time, often requiring hours of gentle application, but the results were worth the effort. Throughout the day, the rhythm of work continued. The sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue over the estate, while the evening routine began to unfold. The staff would return to the manor, dusting off their hands and heads, feeling a sense of accomplishment. As the evening settled in, they would gather again around the long wooden table for a light supper. They would share their findings, recounting which traps had been triggered and the success of their herbal mixtures. The atmosphere was calm, filled with the comforting sounds of utensils clinking against plates and the soft murmurs of conversation. Hee. During these moments, the staff would reflect on the day's efforts, the small victories that contributed to the overall health of the manor. Each story shared was a reminder of their dedication to maintaining a pest-free environment. The warmth of camaraderie enveloped them, reinforcing the gentle bonds that formed through shared labor and care. After supper, the final checks would commence. The staff would once again walk the grounds, surveying the traps and ensuring that all was in order before nightfall. The moon would rise, bathing the estate in a soft glow, and the night air would be filled with stillness. Each trap would be inspected, ensuring that any captured pests were handled with care and disposed of in a manner that reflected their respect for life. If a trap had not yielded any results, it would be reset, the bait refreshed, and the trap placed once more in its designated spot. The staff took turns, moving quietly and efficiently, their movements synchronized in a comforting dance of diligence. They would often pause to breathe in the fresh evening air, the scents of earth and growing things mingling with the cool breeze. As they moved from one area to another, the routine settled into a soothing rhythm, a gentle cadence of purpose. Andy, after ensuring everything was secure for the night, they would retreat to their quarters, each person feeling a sense of peace. The day's efforts, though seemingly mundane, were crucial. They knew that their work created a sanctuary within the manor, a place free of unwanted disturbances, where life could flourish gently and quietly. With each passing day, they embraced the tedium, for within this routine lay the heart of their shared existence, slowly and gently, cultivating a haven that would withstand the tests of time. The following morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the small windows of the manor, the staff would gather for their morning briefing. They would assemble in the kitchen, the heart of the household, where the smell of freshly baked bread mingled with the aroma of herbs from the garden. Here, in the cozy warmth of the hearth, discussions would begin, detailing the tasks of the day ahead. Each person took their place around the sturdy wooden table, the grains of its surface polished smooth from years of use. Gathering their tools was a ritual in itself. Each staff member knew the location of the pest control supplies. They would move to the storage area, a small nook near the kitchen, filled with jars, traps, and various materials. The wooden shelves were lined with containers of dried herbs, such as thyme and mint, known for their pest-repelling properties. These herbs would be carefully measured out, often using a small wooden scale, ensuring precise amounts, typically around 1 ounce. The traps, a mix of wooden and wire designs, were inspected for wear. Each trap was numbered, allowing staff to keep track of its placement and effectiveness. They would take a moment to check each trap, ensuring the mechanisms functioned correctly. A gentle click would sound as the traps were tested, reassuring the staff of their readiness. If a trap showed signs of wear, it would be replaced promptly, as efficiency was key in their ongoing efforts. Once equipped with their tools, the staff would disperse into their assigned areas. Some would head to the pantry, a cool, dark space where food was stored. The pantry was an essential battleground against unwanted guests. A large wooden door creaked softly as it opened, revealing shelves stacked high with jars of preserved fruits and vegetables. Here, the staff would inspect for signs of nibbling or droppings. They would carry small brushes, made of soft bristles, to sweep away any fallen crumbs, which could attract rodents. Each morning, the staff would check the pantry for any new signs of intrusion. They would meticulously examine the edges of the wooden shelves, the corners where darkness lingered, and the ground where a scatter of tiny seeds might attract unwelcome attention. Each inspection would take about 20 minutes, a slow and deliberate process that required patience and keen attention to detail. In the spirit of maintaining a harmonious environment, the staff employed different methods to deter pests from entering the manor. They would create barriers using a mixture of crushed black pepper and salt, carefully placed at the entry points. The mixture was made fresh each morning, using a mortar and pestle, ensuring a potent blend. The process of crushing the spices was rhythmic, each turn of the pestle sending soft echoes through the quiet kitchen. Although the cost for such ingredients was minimal, often sourced from the manor's own gardens or purchased from local markets for a few pence. These small investments in deterrence were essential, as they formed a part of the larger strategy to protect their home. The staff would note the quantities used in a small ledger, ensuring they never ran short. Each entry was written in careful script, the ink flowing smoothly as they recorded their daily expenditures. Aye. As the day progressed, each staff member would check in with their fellow workers. Communication was key. A simple nod or a soft whisper would convey any updates about the traps or the state of various rooms. They would often share tips on techniques that had proven effective in the past. It was a gentle exchange of ideas, fostering a sense of community and mutual support. Midday would find the staff gathering again, this time in the garden, where they would take a moment to breathe in the fresh air. The garden was filled with herbs and flowers, a tapestry of colors and scents. Here, they would gather sprigs of lavender, known for its calming properties and effectiveness in repelling moths. Each sprig would be harvested with care, the staff ensuring not to overpick, leaving enough for the plants to thrive. Once gathered, the lavender would be stored in small cloth pouches, lovingly sewn by hand. The soothing purple hues would bring a sense of tranquility to their storage rooms. Each pouch would measure about 4 inches by 6 inches, an ideal size to keep the lavender fresh and potent. Staff members would take turns sewing, the rhythmic motions of needle and thread bringing a sense of calm to their day. As the afternoon sun began its descent, the staff would revisit their traps, checking for any signs of activity. They moved quietly through the manor, their footsteps soft against the wooden floors. Each area was approached with care, allowing them to observe the nuances of their environment. They would often carry small notebooks, jotting down notes about their findings. A drop here, a scratch there. Each detail was important in understanding the current state of affairs. In the evenings, the traps would be reset again. Staff would gather in the kitchen once more, where the perfect bait was prepared. They favored a mixture of grains and a touch of honey, a blend that seemed irresistible to their furry foes. Each portion of bait was measured to precisely 1 tablespoon, ensuring consistency across all traps. This would be placed carefully within each device. The bait nestled gently to encourage curious creatures to investigate. As twilight settled over the manor, the staff would often share stories of their day, their voices low and soothing. They would recount their encounters with nature, the gentle rustle of leaves, the soft calls of birds settling in for the night. This shared experience deepened their bond, each story woven with the threads of their daily lives. The night would wrap around the manor like a warm blanket, the staff confident in their efforts. They knew that with each passing day, they were creating a sanctuary, a space where peace reigned, where the hum of life could flourish without interruption or fear. Each gentle routine, each careful action, contributed to the rhythm of their collective existence. As they settled into their quarters for the night, they would take a moment to reflect, allowing the day's labors to wash over them. The knowledge that they were guardians of this space brought a sense of calm, a reminder that even the most mundane tasks held purpose and meaning. Each breath in and each breath out, a soft lullaby of contentment. Slowly and gently, they would drift off to sleep, ready to embrace another day of quiet diligence. In the early hours of the morning, when the soft light began to filter through the windows of the manor, the staff would rise from their slumber. The air was cool and fresh, and there was a sense of purpose that filled the space. Each member of the household had their designated tasks, their routines carefully crafted through years of practice. The kitchen staff would prepare breakfast, while the groundskeepers would tend to the gardens. Each day began with the same gentle rhythm, a cadence that fostered stability and comfort. After breakfast, the staff would gather in the courtyard, their voices low and calm as they discussed the tasks ahead. Among these tasks was the ever-present need for pest control, a vital aspect of maintaining the serenity of the manor. The head gardener, a seasoned individual named Thomas, would lead the discussion. He was known for his methodical approach to both gardening and pest management. How Thomas would often remind the staff about the importance of monitoring the environment, noting the changes in weather and how they would affect the local fauna. He would explain that the first step in pest control was observation, watching for signs of intrusion. This involved checking for droppings, gnaw marks, and the telltale signs of disturbed nests. These signs, he would say, were not merely nuisances. They were indicators that the balance of their carefully cultivated space was at risk. Once the signs of unwelcome guests were detected, Thomas would gather the necessary tools. A simple wooden box, filled with various implements, would serve as his arsenal. Inside, he kept a collection of traps, small wooden devices designed to catch rodents without causing them harm. Each trap was crafted with care, made from sturdy materials that would withstand the elements. The traps were inspected regularly, ensuring they were always fit for purpose. In addition to traps, Thomas held a selection of herbs known for their pest-repellent properties. Dried mint, for example, was stored in small cloth bags, its fragrant aroma a natural deterrent. These bags would be placed in strategic locations around the manor, particularly near entry points where rodents might seek to invade. The staff had a saying, "A scent of mint, a pest's lament." They would often chuckle softly, but the wisdom held true. In this body. The application of these methods was a delicate process. Each morning, after breakfast, Thomas would lead a small team to inspect the manor and its grounds. The process was calm and methodical, taking care to move slowly and quietly, so as not to disturb the natural order of things. The team would start at the edges of the gardens, moving inwards, checking every nook and cranny. This inspection routine would often take several hours, allowing ample time to observe the surroundings. The staff would scan the ground, looking for any signs of disturbance. If they encountered a potential issue, Thomas would gently guide them through the next steps. The traps would be set in the areas of concern, placed with precision and care. Each trap was positioned near the most likely pathways of the rodents, ensuring maximum effectiveness. Once the traps were set, the team would retreat, allowing nature to take its course. They would return later in the day to check the traps, a ritual that was both quiet and contemplative. The anticipation was never rushed. Rather, it was filled with patience and hope. The staff understood that pest control was a long game, a gentle battle against the intrusion of nature into their cultivated space. At midday, the staff would gather once more to discuss their findings. They would share observations, recounting the signs they had seen and the measures they had taken. This communal sharing of information was not only practical, but also fostered a sense of unity. Each person played a role in the maintenance of their shared home, their contributions interwoven like threads in a tapestry. Wind and show. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the courtyard, the focus would shift to the materials required for pest control. Thomas would remind the team of the need for proper storage of their tools and herbs. The wooden box containing the traps was kept in a cool, dry place, ensuring durability. The bags of herbs, neatly labeled, were stored in a glass cabinet, protected from moisture and pests themselves. There was a specific way to handle these herbs, too. The staff was instructed to wear clean gloves when touching them, a practice that preserved their potency and kept the scents fresh. This attention to detail reinforced the idea that even the smallest actions had significance. Each carefully executed step added to the overarching goal of a pest-free manor. As twilight approached each evening, the day's work would draw to a close. The team would gather for one final check of the traps, moving through the manor with a soft, measured pace. They would pause at each trap, examining them with care, noting any captures with gentle nods of acknowledgement. The collected rodents were treated with respect, released far from the manor, a practice that echoed their commitment to living in harmony with nature. In these moments of quiet reflection, the staff would often find themselves contemplating the cycle of life around them. They understood that their role was not merely to eliminate pests, but to maintain a balance. Each creature, no matter how small, played a part in the intricate web of life. When the day's routines came to an end, the staff would retreat to their quarters. There, in the stillness of the night, they would take a moment to breathe deeply, allowing the day's efforts to settle within them. With each breath, they would relax their shoulders, letting go of the tensions that might have built up throughout the day. The knowledge that they were stewards of the manor brought a profound sense of peace. They understood that the mundane tasks they performed were essential in creating a sanctuary for all who lived and worked within its walls. Each small action, repeated day after day, wove a tapestry of safety and tranquility. Slowly and gently, they would let the day's events fade away, preparing to embrace the quiet of the night. And so, the cycle would continue. Each day would present its own challenges, yet the staff remained steadfast in their commitment to the manor. They were guardians of the space, protectors of its peace, and their shared routines created a rhythm that resonated deeply within the walls. With that, they would close their eyes, cocooned in the warmth of their efforts, ready to welcome another day of tranquil diligence. As the sun began to rise over the manor, the first light would gently illuminate the corridors. The staff would awaken, and with a soft stretching of limbs, they would prepare for the day ahead. Each morning brought with it a familiar rhythm, a comforting cadence of tasks that began with the simple act of gathering tools and supplies. The first task would often involve assembling the necessary equipment for pest control. This might include a sturdy wooden broom, its bristles worn yet reliable, and a collection of woven baskets for collecting any undesirable guests that had made their way indoors in the night. The staff would check the storage area in the pantry, where these tools were kept, ensuring that everything was in its proper place. In this cool, quiet space, they would note the condition of the baskets. They were made from reeds, meticulously woven, each basket typically measuring about 2 feet in diameter. The process of weaving these baskets was tedious, but rewarding. Knowing that they had made these tools with their own hands instilled a sense of pride. Once the tools were gathered, the next step involved preparing the various materials needed to keep the manor free from uninvited guests. The staff would often use a combination of herbs and natural repellents. They favored dried lavender, known for its fragrant aroma and its ability to repel certain pests. The lavender would be stored in small burlap sacks, neatly tied with twine. Each sack contained approximately a cup of dried lavender flowers, carefully harvested in the summer months for optimal potency. They would also gather sprigs of rosemary, another herb believed to deter unwanted visitors. The rosemary was stored in a cool, dark place within the pantry, ensuring its freshness. The scent of these herbs filled the air, creating a calming atmosphere, one that reminded them of the natural world outside the manor walls. With each herb they collected, they would breathe in deeply, allowing the fragrance to envelop them. The morning tasks would then transition to the practical application of their preparations. The staff would begin by walking the manor, room by room, assessing for any signs of intrusion. They would gently check corners and crevices, paying close attention to the spaces behind furniture and under the eaves. This routine required patience and keen observation. They knew that rodents, particularly, were skilled at finding small openings. Die. For this meticulous inspection, the staff would use a small handheld lantern, casting a soft glow in the dim light of the early morning. The lantern, made of brass and glass, had a delicate flickering flame that would illuminate the dark corners of the manor. As they moved through the rooms, they would take care to note any areas that required further attention. Should they discover any signs of activity, tiny droppings or nibbled grains, the staff would act swift. They would first gather their baskets, then prepare the traps. The traps, made of wood and metal, were simple yet effective. They would measure out the bait, usually a small handful of grains, approximately 2 ounces, placing it strategically within the traps. This meticulous attention to detail ensured that the traps were set correctly, maximizing their chances of success. In addition to traps, the staff would also consider preventative measures. They understood the importance of sealing potential entry points. They would gather burlap and twine, preparing to patch any small holes they might find. This process was systematic and straightforward, often taking several hours. Each member of the staff was assigned specific areas to inspect. They would work in pairs, allowing for a gentle exchange of conversation as they moved through the manor. South. While one staff member would patch holes, the other would continue inspecting nearby areas. This cooperation created a rhythm, a soothing back and forth that filled the halls with a sense of purpose. They would measure out the burlap, cutting it to fit snugly against each hole, ensuring it was securely fastened with twine. The sound of the twine being pulled tight, the gentle tugging, became a familiar melody in the morning air. As the day progressed, the staff would take breaks, pausing to sip herbal teas brewed from the very herbs they use for pest control. The tea, warm and fragrant, offered a moment of respite. They would gather in the small kitchen, sharing stories and laughter, creating bonds that made their work lighter. In the middle of the day, the staff would often perform a thorough sweep of the gardens surrounding the manor. This was an essential part of their pest control routine, as certain plants attracted beneficial insects that helped maintain a natural balance. They would tend to the herbs growing in the herb garden, each plant carefully labeled, knowing that their efforts outside contributed to the overall well-being of the manor. Gardening was a peaceful endeavor. They would kneel in the soft earth, measuring out distances between each plant, ensuring that the rosemary was planted a foot away from the lavender. This spacing was crucial, allowing each plant to thrive without competing for nutrients. As they worked, they would take their time, appreciating the sensation of the soil between their fingers. They would breathe in the earthy scent, grounding themselves in the moment. Throughout the afternoon, the staff would continue their rounds. They made a point to check the attic and cellars, areas often forgotten but essential in their efforts to maintain a pest-free environment. The attic, dark and often dusty, required a lantern to illuminate the way. Here, they would meticulously inspect the wooden beams and insulation, noting any signs of wear that could serve as entry points for pests. In the cellar, they would inspect stored grains, ensuring that each sack was tightly sealed. Each sack of grain weighed approximately 50 pounds, and they would record their findings in a large ledger, noting any signs of spoilage or pest activity. This ledger, a thick book of parchment, was kept in a wooden box to protect it from moisture. The staff would take turns logging the details, creating a shared responsibility that fostered connection and diligence. As the sun began to set, the day's work would slowly wind down. The staff would gather the tools they had used throughout the day, cleaning and returning them to their designated storage areas. The gentle sounds of wooden brooms sweeping across stone floors echoed through the manor, creating a calm ambience. They would take care to put everything away in its proper place, knowing that order was essential for both efficiency and peace of mind. With the evening settling in, the staff would reflect on their efforts. They understood that their work, though often tedious and repetitive, played a vital role in maintaining the sanctity of the manor. Each task, from gathering herbs to inspecting the attic, contributed to a larger purpose. A purpose rooted in care and stewardship. As the light dimmed and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, they would take a moment to breathe deeply, appreciating the routine that defined their days, the rhythm that kept the manor safe, slowly and gently, enveloping them in a sense of calm. As the evening settled into the manor, the staff prepared for the next day's routine. They would begin by gathering the tools that would aid them in their ongoing effort against unwanted guests. The tools were often simple, yet effective. Wooden traps, crafted from sturdy oak, were laid with care. Each trap measured approximately 12 inches in length and 4 inches in width, a size deemed appropriate for capturing the small creatures that dared to invade their space. The traps would be baited with morsels of cheese or bits of dried fruit, both of which were considered suitable enticements. The gentle aroma of the bait would waft through the air, a tantalizing invitation to the unwelcome visitors. Each evening, the staff would diligently check these traps, ensuring they were in good working order and that the bait remained fresh. This ritual was not merely a task. It was a moment of connection to the manor's legacy, a reminder of the delicate balance between nature and the safety of their home. After the traps were set, the staff would turn their attention to the various storage areas within the manor. The pantry, a cozy room filled with jars, baskets, and shelves, was a crucial space in pest prevention. The jars, made of thick glass and sealed with tightly woven wicker lids, held grains, dried herbs, and preserves. The staff would inspect each jar, ensuring that the seals remained intact, preventing any intrusion by curious creatures. The grains, stored in burlap sacks, were carefully stacked in a corner of the pantry, far from the walls. Each sack was labeled with its contents and date of arrival, a practice that facilitated easy access and monitoring. The staff would note the weight of each sack, ensuring that no pest could gain entry by burrowing through the fabric. The burlap's coarse texture was chosen for its durability, and it would be replaced periodically, as wear could lead to vulnerabilities. Ein Termin, and so, on this far. Each evening, the staff would also attend to the kitchen. The hearth was central to the manor's life, where meals were prepared and warmth was generated. The kitchen, with its rustic wooden tables and slate countertops, required special attention. They would sweep the floors, ensuring that no crumbs were left behind, as even the smallest morsel could attract visitors. The kitchen broom was made of straw, bound tightly to a wooden handle. The rhythmic sound of straw against stone was soothing, almost meditative. It took about half an hour to clean the entire kitchen, a time devoted to both hygiene and reflection. Slowly and gently, they would move around the space, working in a methodical manner. In addition to sweeping, the staff would wash the dishes in a large wooden basin filled with warm, soapy water. The soap, crafted from lard and ash, produced a gentle lather. As they scrubbed each plate and cup, they took care to inspect them for signs of damage or wear, ensuring that no cracks could harbor pests. Once cleaned, the dishes were arranged on shelves, each piece meticulously placed to avoid clutter. This system not only maintained order, but also contributed to a sense of tranquility within the space. Each evening, the staff would take great care in arranging the dishes, knowing that a well-organized kitchen was a key factor in preventing the incursions of rodents and other pests. After the kitchen was tended to, the staff would proceed to the dining room. The dining table, a grand piece of oak, required special attention. It was polished with beeswax, creating a protective layer that not only enhanced its beauty, but also made it less appealing to pests. The table was set with linens that were washed regularly, preventing the accumulation of food remnants. The linens were checked for small tears, as even the slightest opening could invite trouble. The chairs, sturdy and well-crafted, were also inspected. Each chair was sanded and oiled to ensure its longevity. The staff would gently tap the legs, listening for any unusual sounds that might indicate hidden damage. This attention to detail was part of the routine that defined their dedication to the manor. How? Nissi. In the evenings, the staff would gather and discuss their observations. They would share notes on any signs of pest activity. If any droppings were found or unusual sounds were heard, these would be recorded, fostering a spirit of collective responsibility. Each staff member understood their role in this ongoing effort. The gardens surrounding the manor were another focus of attention. The staff would routinely walk the perimeter, inspecting the hedges and flower beds for any signs of burrowing or nibbling. The gardens were a sanctuary, lovingly tended to, and it was essential that they remained undisturbed. The flowers, herbs, and vegetables were carefully planted in neat rows, creating a sense of order that not only pleased the eye, but also deterred unwanted guests. Each plant had its own space and purpose. The marigolds, with their vibrant colors, were believed to repel certain pests. The staff would note their growth, measuring their heights and health weekly. This practice, though mundane, connected them to the earth, allowing them to appreciate the cycles of life surrounding the manor. As twilight deepened, The staff would gather the herbs they had collected throughout the day. Each variety had its own fragrance, a soothing blend that filled the air. Lavender, rosemary, and sage were among the favorites, known not only for their culinary uses, but also for their pest-repelling properties. The herbs would be dried and stored in cloth bags, labeled clearly with the name and date, ensuring that they remained potent and effective. The bags were hung in the pantry, creating a fragrant curtain of nature's bounty. The staff took care to check them regularly, replacing any that had begun to lose their scent. This was a gentle reminder of the importance of nurturing, of tending to both the plants and the space they inhabited. Ow. In doing so, they knew they were part of a long tradition, a lineage of caretakers who had preserved the manor through attention to detail and diligence. Slowly and gently, each evening ritual weaved a tapestry of care that enveloped the manor, promoting not only cleanliness but also a sense of peace. As the last light faded from the windows, the staff would take a moment to reflect on their day. They would settle onto their wooden stools, resting their arms on the tables, and breathe deeply. The evening air was cool, and a sense of accomplishment filled the space. They understood that their efforts, though often repetitive and tedious, were vital to the health and safety of their home. And with a final sweep of the broom, a last check of the pantry, and a moment of gratitude for the tasks completed, the staff would slowly prepare for rest. They would dim the lights, allowing the flicker of the hearth to cast a warm glow around the room. In this soft light, they felt a connection to the past and a commitment to the future, a cycle of care that would continue little by little. Luckily, as the evening shadows lengthened and settled into the corners of the manor, the evening pest control routines began to take shape. Each member of the household understood their role in this ongoing endeavor, a quiet task that required patience and care. The kitchen, usually bustling with activity during the day, transformed into a sanctuary of calm preparation. It was here that the tools of the trade were gathered, each with a specific purpose and place. The first tool was the broom, a sturdy wooden handle, well-worn yet reliable. The bristles, crafted from straw or perhaps horsehair, were soft but effective. Slowly and gently, the staff would run the broom along the edges of the kitchen floor, sweeping away the remnants of the day. Crumbs, dust, and the occasional stray leaf would find their way into the unyielding embrace of the straw. Each sweep was deliberate, taking care to move from one corner to the next, ensuring no space was left untouched. The rhythmic sound of bristles against wood created a soothing backdrop, a lullaby of cleanliness. Once the sweeping was finished, the staff would turn their attention to the corners of the room, where the walls met the floor. Here, small crevices could easily harbor unwanted guests, rodents, insects, and other intruders. To combat this, they would employ a mixture of salt and crushed herbs, often thyme or mint, known for their pest-repelling properties. This mixture, prepared in small bowls, was carefully sprinkled along the baseboards. It was a simple act, yet it felt significant, knowing they were using nature's remedies to maintain their home. The staff would measure out a pinch with their fingers, approximately a teaspoon for each corner. The scent of the herbs mingled with the cool evening air, a gentle reminder of the earth's abundance. They understood that this mixture would not only deter pests, but also contribute to the overall ambience of the manor. The herbs were stored in small wooden containers, each labeled with the name of the plant and its intended use. This organization allowed for easy access, even in the dim light of the evening. One place. After attending to the kitchen, the staff would move to the larder. The larder, a cool, dark space, was particularly vulnerable to the allure of unwelcome visitors. Here, the staff would take their time to inspect the shelves lined with jars of preserves, sacks of grain and roots stored in sand. Each item was carefully examined. They would check for any signs of gnawing or droppings, using a soft cloth to wipe away any dust that had settled. The jars were polished until they gleamed, ensuring that the contents were visible and inviting. Chi was he all? To protect the larder, the staff employed cloth bags filled with dried lavender and rosemary. These fragrant sachets were hung from the wooden beams, their aroma wafting through the air. The staff knew that these herbs served a dual purpose, keeping pests away while infusing the space with a sense of calm. They would tie each bag with thin twine, creating a simple knot that would hold securely. Jaina, Evendi. In the event that a more serious infestation was suspected, the staff would turn to a traditional recipe for a homemade trap. This trap required only a flat piece of wood and a shallow dish of water. The wooden board was carefully balanced over the dish, creating a sloped surface. A gentle tug on one end would release the other side, causing the unsuspecting rodent to fall into the water below. Each trap was baited with a small piece of stale bread, which would be placed near the edge. The staff would check these traps nightly, ensuring they were empty and clean. They understood that maintaining a safe environment was essential to the well-being of the household. In addition to traps, the staff utilized the age-old practice of keeping cats. These furry guardians roamed the manor with grace and poise. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the cats would stretch, arching their backs and blinking slowly. Their presence was a source of comfort and companionship. They would meander through the rooms, stopping occasionally to investigate a corner or a shadow. The staff would leave small bowls of food and water in strategic places, ensuring that the cats were well fed and content. Oh, the cats also had a schedule, a rhythm of their own, that matched the routines of the household. They would patrol the manor during the night, while the staff rested. The gentle sound of their paws padding across the wooden floors created a reassuring ambience, a reminder that the manor was being watched over. Meanwhile, the staff would gather in the common room. Here, they would discuss the day's tasks, sharing stories of their experiences. Each member contributed their observations about pest behavior, the best times to inspect the storage areas, and the most effective methods they had discovered. This sharing of knowledge created a bond, a community of caretakers dedicated to the manor's well-being. As the clock chimed softly in the background, marking the hours, the staff would often reflect on their routines. They understood that the battle against pests was an ongoing one, requiring diligence and consistency. Each task, though seemingly mundane, was a building block in the larger structure of maintaining their home. Slowly and gently, they would remind each other of the importance of their work, reinforcing the sense of purpose that filled the air. The final ritual of the evening involved the storage of tools and materials. Each broom and cloth was cleaned and returned to its designated spot. The herbal mixtures were labeled and stored in a cool, dry cabinet, labeled with the date of preparation. The staff took care to ensure that everything was in its rightful place, for organization was key to efficiency. As they finished their evening tasks, a sense of serenity enveloped the manor. The staff would take a moment to breathe deeply, inhaling the calming scent of the herbs that lingered in the air. They understood that they were part of a tradition, a lineage of caretakers who had come before them, each contributing to the legacy of their home. Ooh, little by little, they would settle down for the night, ready to face another day of tending to their beloved manor. The shadows deepened, and the gentle sounds of the night, rustling leaves, distant crickets, wrapped around them like a soft blanket. They felt a connection to the past, a commitment to the future, and a shared purpose that would continue on, slowly and gently. In our exploration of the tedious chronicles of medieval manor pest control procedures, we gently wandered through the intricate methods employed to manage the presence of unwanted guests. We observed the careful setup of traps, the strategic placement of baits, and the gentle art of maintaining a clean environment that deterred rodents and other pests. Each small detail unfolded like a quiet ritual, emphasizing the patience required in this often overlooked aspect of daily manor life. As we settled into the soft cadence of these routines, we imagined the calm atmosphere of a large, quiet room, dimly lit by flickering candles, where the gentle sounds of nature outside lulled one into a serene state. Now, as you find comfort in your resting body, remember to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to turn on loop, allowing this soothing journey to repeat, guiding you softly into a deeper sense of relaxation.